You know, there are moments in history that change everything. And we might be living through one right now. A conflict that almost everyone thought would be over in a few weeks is now rewriting the rules of global power, right before our very eyes.
I mean, think back to the beginning. The general consensus, the official line, was that this was going to be a swift, contained conflict. It would be resolved, in a matter of weeks, maybe a month tops.
But, well, that's just not what happened, is it? We're now a month in, and the situation isn't just simmering along, it is getting much, much worse. The whole theater of war is literally expanding by the day.
And that brings us to the absolute core question we're going to unpack. How on earth did a regional fight spiral into a global flashpoint? One that's threatening not just the world economy, but the very structure of international power as we know it.
Okay, so first, let's just look at how this thing exploded, way beyond its original borders. This isn't some localized fight anymore. It's more like a fire that's spreading, and spreading fast.
The sheer scale of what's happening is just staggering. First, we saw Iran's largest steel plant get hit. What was the response? Well, Iran came out and declared that any hotels or industries frequented by Americans are now considered valid targets. Then, the conflict just leaped across borders with direct attacks on major U.S. air bases in Jordan and Saudi Arabia. And we're not just talking about trading potshots here. We're talking about real, significant damage to incredibly expensive, super high-tech American military hardware, things like THAAD missile defense radars, and even a super rare E-3 surveillance plane.
But the war isn't just expanding across land. It's now become an economic war, and the world's energy lifeline is hanging right in the balance.
To really get the economic stakes, you have to understand these two geopolitical choke points. The Strait of Hormuz, that's always been the critical artery for global oil. But now, with Houthi forces jumping into the conflict, the Red Sea, another absolutely vital shipping lane, is also under threat. And this is huge, because for the first time, both of these critical routes are at risk at the exact same time.
And here's what that means in plain numbers. If both the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea get blocked, a staggering 40 to 50% of the world's entire oil flow could just stop cold. The potential for absolute economic chaos here is immense.
So, what does a threat like that do to the global economy? Well, we're already seeing the answer. The stock markets have started to get shaky, reacting to all this instability. A disruption on this scale could easily trigger a financial crisis that would make today's volatility look like a walk in the park.
And that kind of instability, that chaos, it always creates an opportunity for someone. This conflict has other very powerful players who are operating from the shadows, and their involvement changes the entire game.
So while America is totally focused on Iran, Russia and China are quietly cashing in. Russia is the big economic winner here. Its oil exports have doubled, and it's raking in an estimated $24 billion in just 1 month. China, on the other hand, is playing the long game. It's the strategic winner. It's reportedly feeding Iran satellite and targeting data. This lets China test U.S. military capabilities and gather priceless intelligence, all without putting a single Chinese soldier on the battlefield. It's the definition of a low-risk, high-reward strategy to probe your rival's weaknesses.
And this really brings us to the crucial point here. This has become a proxy war. Let's be very clear. America isn't just fighting Iran anymore. It's indirectly going up against the strategic and economic ambitions of both Russia and China.
So, this incredibly complex proxy war is now posing a direct challenge to America's decades-long position as the world's undisputed superpower. And frankly, the cracks are starting to show.
And we're seeing real, tangible signs of this shift. You've got former close allies like Saudi Arabia and the UAE who are no longer just relying on the U.S. for security. They're reportedly out there making deals with Ukraine to get drone defense tech. I mean, think about that for a second. They're hedging their bets. America's inability to secure vital waterways like the Red Sea, combined with the very visible damage to its advanced military hardware, is just chipping away at its prestige as the region's one and only security guarantor.
And this is fascinating because it creates a whole new definition of what victory even means. See, Iran doesn't need to defeat America outright. If it can just sustain its resistance, if it can hold out for another 6 to 12 months, it will have proven to the world that America is not invincible. That act of defiance, all by itself, would fundamentally change global politics forever. So when you put all of these pieces together, the expanding war, a threatened global economy, these rising shadow powers, and a superpower that's starting to falter, a very clear picture of a new global order starts to emerge.
So let's just trace the steps real quick. It started as a supposedly contained conflict that then just exploded. This, in turn, threatened global economic lifelines, turning energy itself into a weapon. That chaos created the perfect opening for other powers, like Russia and China, to rise up and push their own interests. And all of it has culminated in the faltering of the world's sole superpower, pushing us faster than ever toward a multipolar world, a world where power isn't held by one nation but is spread out among many.
At the end of the day, this conflict has been a catalyst. It's speeding up a change that was probably already happening. The era of a single dominant global power, it might be ending right now, as we speak. The post-American world may already be here. So the question isn't really if it's coming anymore, but what it's going to look like. And maybe more importantly, are any of us ready for what comes next?